right, welcome back to the unofficial breakdown. Today we're going to do a little show on the fallout from the Canada USA gold medal game and just give some opinions on it because we've had a day now for all the real talk shows and all the real sports people to give their opinions and discuss the game. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't liked a lot of it. I haven't really liked the way that they've been talking about it and arguing a lot of points that I think more or less are kind of meaningless. And just some opinions just overall on how the game went, what this means moving forward and everything. So I don't know. I want to get my 2 cents in here and at least give you my viewpoints on how those games went, and especially the gold medal game. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I got 5 points. I'm not gonna make it a very long video, but five major things that I think I think need to be talked about and at least discussed in terms of how this went and what it's going to look like moving forward. So the first thing that I got is, did we have the right players? And that's a question that I keep, I keep hearing it thrown around a lot. And honestly, our team was star-studded from top to bottom. Maybe there was a couple players that you could have swapped out, but I mean, if you look at that team, it's probably the most star power I've ever seen on a Canadian lineup, besides maybe the Four Nations face-off that was pretty much the same team with some slight tweaks. But honestly, no, I don't really think that there was, a huge discrepancy of players and how they ended up playing in the end. I know in the last game there, in the gold medal game, not a single forward had a point or anything like that. It was it's a very quiet game considering the amount of star power you had, and there's some reasons for that, which we will get into later. But I think there are the main questions that I have for it is, I remember watching Real Kipper and Born, and I think it was Anthony Sorelli or Braden Point. One of those two guys, I believe, got hurt, and they found out on air, and they immediately said Zach Hyman's in. Then it's got to be Zach Hyman. Who else would it be? Of course, we're gonna have Zach Hyman. And so I kind of just accepted it, and I moved on, and I went, okay, that's fine. And then later on, I found out that it was Seth Jarvis they put in place of Zach Hyman, which I thought was kind of odd. I don't even know really anything about Seth Jarvis, to be honest with you. Obviously, great hockey player. He made the team, so more qualified people than me are making the decisions there. So it is what it is. But at the same time, I still think after watching these games, one of the things that came up a lot was net front presence. There wasn't a lot of, like there was a lot of shooters, but there wasn't a lot of net front presence in terms of guys, getting in the way of the goalie or getting little rebounds, little garbage goals, little, things like that. And that's one of Zach Hyman's specialties. So it does sort of leave a question in your mind if Zach Hyman was there. Would he have been a better fit? Could he have provided some offense in those moments that would have mattered most? Maybe, we'll never know. But personally, besides 99% of the roster, I think that Zach Hyman would have been a better fit on this roster than Seth Jarvis. So that's one thing that I would have fixed personally. But, I mean, hey, they still got to the gold medal game. What can you say? It's unfortunate. And the other player that I was really shocked but also disappointed that he wasn't on was Connor Bedard. Now, I know he was injured getting close to the Olympics there, so he wouldn't have really been able to play down this stretch. And that kind of, disqualified him more or less just in the minds of the people choosing the team, I guess. But to me, it was kind of an odd decision because, yes, obviously you need your veterans there. But, I mean, you got Macklin Celebrini on the team, who turned out to be an absolute gem. Obviously, that kid's going to be a star, and it's a really bright future for him and for Canada, with him moving forward. So that's awesome and great to see. But Connor Bedard is one of those, obviously he's a star, but he's one of those players that I really think should have been on this team. As I said, you want your veterans, but I think you also need to start looking towards the future more of where this team's going to be. And I think having that experience of this Olympics while he's still so young, while also having the calming presence of the veterans on the team, would have been a really great fit. It would have been a great mix. And I think that they missed the opportunity to really give him a look at like what the Olympics will look like moving forward, and also just the structure. Being in those big moments. I think it would have grown him as a player, not just a helping hand to Team Canada. So I think that was kind of a fumble. Obviously, he'll be on the next one. I can't imagine unless there's some sort of freak injury, but yeah, I was sad Bedard wasn't on this team. I think that towards the end there, especially against the Americans, the small players didn't really play too much of a role. But also, I feel like maybe you could have used some smaller, quick-handed players to make some different plays. It's kind of a toss-up, I guess. But I still think you should have had Bedard on this team. It was kind of a disappointment not having him there. But oh well. So moving on. So the next one I got is missed shots and the 5-on-3 that was wasted. So let's go to the 5-on-3 first, and then we'll come back to the glaring opportunities that were missed by McKinnon, and I think and Celebrini too. So yeah, the 5-on-3. You know, honestly, I just chalked that one up to you have so much star power on the ice and so many shooters that it almost makes it more difficult. I feel like if you would have had some lesser players on the ice, even though I know the roster is full of A1 star grade players, it just they seemed like there was way too much passing and way too much just looking for a lane, and a lot of them were open, but there was nobody really in front of the net. As I said, Zach Hyman, that could have been helpful. Just to get a screen, get something. They seemed like as O-Dog on TSN Overdrive said, they couldn't get out of their own way. And I don't think they could, honestly. It was a frustrating part to watch in which you have some of the best players in the world, not even on Canada, in the world on the ice, and you seemingly can't get any offense. I don't know. I think it was one of those times when you should have had maybe one or two star players out there, like a McDavid and McKinnon, or maybe even three. Put Celebrini with those two and had two other guys that were just more net front presence or buffer or something. Again, I don't know. It's one of those ones where maybe you're just trying too hard to score, so then you don't, and maybe that's just all it is. But that's a moment there, and also with the format of how they played the 5-on-3. They played the 5-on-4 the same way as their 5-on-3, and I think you needed to switch it up a little bit and have a different system look, because USA basically played the same defense system because they didn't have to switch it up at all. So I think that there should have been a little bit of movement on that. I'm not exactly sure if that's a coaching problem. Maybe they thought that it would never come up, that they would get a 5-on-3 like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge disappointment for something that was it was such a glaring opportunity to do something with the game. So I don't know. That one's gonna haunt Canadians for a long time. Seeing that, it's gonna haunt me for a long time. Um, all right, next one I got, point number 3. Connor Hellebuck, game of his life, or did he just get lucky? And I've heard this talking point a lot, and I hear a lot of real sports broadcasters, talking about how Hellebuck had the game of his life, and he just completely, Canada got goalied. And I don't really agree with that, to be honest with you. Yes, he had a great game, and he was a solid, leading force to get USA the goal. But if you look at the chances that Canada had, and that goes back to the missed shots thing I was talking about, if they bury any one of those glaring opportunities, we're not sitting here talking about Hellebuck having the game of his life. So I think if he stoned them on every single shot, and there really wasn't any luck involved or anything like that, I would tend to agree. I would say, okay, yeah, Canada got goalied. Hellebuck's the man. He's the new Patrick Waugh or Marty Brodeur, sure. But I just kind of got lucky on some of those opportunities. It's really tough to like the McKinnon shot, especially where he just tried to get it in a little bit too fast. I think he was just a little bit too eager, and he just kind of whiffed the shot. It's unfortunate, but I think in that moment he just couldn't believe his eyes, and he was just, I don't know. I think he was just too eager to get it in the net, and when that happens, sometimes you miss. It happens to the best of us. So I know there's a lot of people tearing out their hair about that, and I definitely am one of them. But it's one of those things you just have to understand. And as a Leaf fan, as we all know, there's some glaring opportunities that should have been in the net that just don't end up working out. And I don't think we should beat him to the grave for that. So let's just it is what it is. I can't be mad at McKinnon. It sucks, but it's something that just happens. It happens to the best of us. So, and here's the other thing too. Okay, so point number 4 is this is the main one. This is the main point that I want to get across that really pissed me off when I keep hearing this. And this even goes to John Cooper himself. And I think you all know what I'm going to say, basically. But the 3-on-3, and is it still hockey? How should they end the game? And it just kills me because I'm probably one of the only people out there, or one of a very small group of people that actually likes 3-on-3. I think it was a fantastic way to end the game. You could do 5-on-5, but personally, I don't want to sit and watch a game. Like, if it's been a stalemate for 60 minutes, most likely it's not going to be finished anytime soon in overtime. Now, obviously, both teams are going to be trying harder because it's overtime and there's going to be a big offensive push. But I don't want to watch a 4.5 hour game, potentially longer than that if it's 5-on-5. I love the 3-on-3. I think it's gotten a little bitchy in the last couple of years in terms of teams hogging the puck for offense, leaving the zone, regrouping, and going back in. Didn't really see a lot of that, though. I think it was a very fast-paced, and it didn't last very long, honestly. But I liked it. I think that it's a great way to end the game. And if you're at a stalemate after 60 minutes, go 3-on-3. Let's get the game over with. Let's find a winner. You're going to put your stars on the ice, and the winner's going to prevail. So I don't see a problem with it. I know everyone's bitching about it and saying that it's not hockey. How could they end a tournament like this? It's ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous at all. The Stanley Cup finals are much different. It's in a league of its own. The Olympics is more or less just a tournament on steroids. And it sucks to say, I love the Olympics too, but it's not to the same caliber as a Stanley Cup, I would say. Like, I value Stanley Cups more than gold medals, in my opinion. Now, maybe that's going to make people freak out, fine. But to me, you got to end that game and get a winner. You can't be taking too long on that. And it sucks. I'd still say the same thing if it obviously went our way. I know people don't like it, but I would prefer them doing 3-on-3. Ray Ferraro actually made a very good point about it, that the biggest sport in the world, soccer, after overtime, I think it is, that they end the game, no matter what kind of game it is, they end it on penalty kicks. It was basically a shootout. Now, I don't think anyone, including me, wants a gold medal game or a Stanley Cup final to be decided by a shootout. That's pretty shitty, let's be honest here. But 3-on-3 overtime, for me, I love it. So I don't really understand all the complaining about it, personally. Maybe you feel differently. Please leave a comment if you want to, or if you feel differently, let me know. But yeah, I mean, because this is my viewpoint on it too, is the fact that, if there's a penalty in overtime, let's say it's 5-on-5 and there's a penalty. If it's 5-on-4 or even 5-on-3, I mean, is that still hockey? Of course it is. Just because there's an odd man advantage or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's a different sport now. Just because it's 3-on-3, it's still hockey. It's just there's a little bit more ice out there. It's a little bit faster. It's a little bit more open. Why is that a problem for everybody? I don't understand that. So whatever. I mean, and the other thing too is like Sidney Crosby's goal, the golden goal, was 4-on-4. Nobody cared about that then. No, like nobody was complaining and saying 4-on-4 isn't real hockey. So I don't understand why it's such a big deal now compared to back then. But whatever, that's what I think of that. So moving on, the last thing that I want to talk about real quick here is, what does this mean moving forward for Team Canada? And I'll get to the second half of this thing in a second. But so what does this mean for Canada moving forward? It's still our game. We're still the best at it. The Americans got one. It's the first time since 1980 in their Miracle on Ice. So you know what? Congratulations, USA. You won. All the power to you. You have bragging rights. It is what it is. Good for you. Sometimes the enemy wins. It sucks, but you know what? Good for them. They did it this one time. Canada's still an incredible hockey nation. I have no fear for the future. In fact, I'm very optimistic about the future, especially with Celebrini, Bedard, Connor McDavid's still in his prime. McKinnon's still going to be there. Yeah, you still have a lot of great players and maybe some more coming up in the future we don't even know about yet. Gavin McKenna, especially. So I'm not sitting over here thinking like this is the end of the world, like some people are about hockey in Canada and how it's all going down the drain. Like, yeah, it's been a little bit rough. Especially some big heartbreak losses for Canada in general with the Jays and Leafs and World Juniors, and yeah, it's been tough. But I still think that we have incredible talent, and going forward, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be more than fine. We're gonna be champions again. So let's not burn the house down here. I think we're still a fantastic hockey nation, and we will continue to be a fantastic hockey nation, and I believe that with all my soul. So the other part of that question that I hadn't gotten to yet was, what does this mean moving forward for Austin Matthews? More importantly, because at the end of the day, this is a Leafs channel, all right? We talk about the fucking Leafs here, all right? So Austin Matthews is a gold medalist, all right? That's huge. Yeah, it sucks Canada lost, but like our Leaf captain is a winner. Finally. Like this is awesome. Yeah, this is something to be happy about. Kind of sucks that he's going back to a team that is absolutely dog shit right now, but I haven't seen him be that happy in a long time. I haven't seen him smile and have something to celebrate since maybe a first round playoff win or something a long time ago. Like it's nice to see him finally win something. I feel like he's got a taste now, and whether the Leafs make the playoffs or not, I think it will change the trajectory of his career and put him on a path to winning. When and where that's going to happen, not sure. Really hope it's in Toronto, but I don't know. But he's going to win somewhere. So I am very happy for him, and I think coming back, it's going to change the attitude of this team. And yeah, I think good things are to come, hopefully, from that. But congrats to Austin Matthews for actually winning something. You deserve it, man. Honestly, I'm happy for you. And yeah, that's pretty much it for those 5 talking points. I guess the other thing, real quick, I'll talk about is the officiating. Didn't really have too much of a problem with it. I think in international hockey, obviously, the refs are a little iffy. Sometimes you got some Canadian, some American refs, and then the real international ones. And I think it's always kind of a toss up of how they're gonna officiate the game. Yes, they missed some calls, and there was some bitchiness in there a little bit, but I don't have too much of a problem with it. It is what it is. That's how international hockey always seems to be. It's just refed a little more laissez-faire sometimes, and then sometimes it can be a little bit tighter. It's kind of all over the map, which makes it extremely hard to get a read on how the refs are calling a game, which is the exact problem. So yeah, it sucks that they missed some calls there, but I'm not going to blame it on the refs. It just is what it is. That's a bad excuse, but overall, happy for the Americans. Good for you. We'll be back, and we'll be back even hungrier. I think, honestly, I heard this point too. I honestly think in a way, this is actually a better thing for Canada to lose this one, because as JD Bunkus was saying on his show, is that, if we had won this game and won the gold medal, it's great, but there's almost like not a cockiness, but like almost like a right. With some of these players coming up, they just always kind of assume like they're going to win, and we see that with some of the junior teams and stuff like that. And I think that it's it sucks to take a loss like this, but I think it's actually more effective in terms of the long term growth of hockey in Canada for them to lose this game in the heartbreaking way that they did, so that going forward we can have a more powerful, steady, well-built hockey team, and including future upcoming draft picks and players that are going to be in the league and in the Olympics coming forward. So I think it sucks for today, but going forward, it's a very, very big positive. So That's at least something you can hang your hat on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're not tuning in, you should be. I appreciate everybody who's watching. Leafs play this week sometime. I think it's actually Wednesday. So we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to be back on some normal Leafs talk. It's been a long time since I've actually done some Leafs talk, so it'll be good to get back. But hope everyone enjoyed their little NHL break, and I will see you on Wednesday. Good night.